Hello, Commanders, and welcome back to Elite Dangerous Return from Beagle Point, where we fly across the galaxy doing exobiology and discussing whatever random topic I decide to cover for the episode. For today, we're going to be talking about the pros and cons of lab-grown meat. I told you it was random. But before we hop into any of that, we're going to go ahead and cover a couple of standard announcements that I do at the beginning of every episode. First and foremost, this one isn't every episode, but for recently, we are working on a GoFundMe for our mother-in-law's car that got totaled by a hit and run. She was on liability only, so we're not able to get insurance to help us with a replacement, and we're doing our best to try to help her figure out that situation. So click the link below, head over to the GoFundMe if you'd like to do a good deed, help somebody get back on their feet with a car. And you can check out all the information over there. I am not affiliated with it other than just trying to help promote getting that done. So that's that. The other thing is just to kind of go over the standard sequence of things that we do here. For those of you who are new, as you can see, we hop into a system. We'll pop the discovery scanner to see how many bodies are in the system. You can see that there are 12. Then we'll do a fuel scooping operation. And then after that, we'll hop into the full spectrum system scanner, and then we'll make a couple of decisions at that point. We're looking for, if you look in the bottom right corner of the screen, we are looking for Earth-like worlds, ammonia worlds, and water worlds as far as just scanning planets for high value. There aren't any in this system. And then up at the top right, you can see there are 12 bodies. If there are 15 or less, it fudges depending on how I feel, but generally 15 or less. We'll go ahead and do an individual scan of all the bodies in the system. And then there is a 10,000 light second limit that I place on how far we're going to go to try to find anything. As you can see in the bottom left of the screen, it's kind of hidden by the star, but 309,262 light seconds, we're definitely not messing around with that. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next system and hope that we find something better over there. So that's basically the gameplay that we do here. I'll interject every once in a while when something interesting happens, but I do try to have a topic of discussion, so that way we're not sitting here for 30 minutes just watching me play the game. So I watched a video, or sort of a news channel video, where they were talking about some things that are going on with lab-grown meats. There's something in Florida where they're trying to block it, and it kind of inspired me to want to talk about the pros and cons of something like lab-grown meat. Now, obviously, as an older person, I'm going to have a bit of apprehension towards something as strange and new as lab-grown meat. It feels kind of weird just from a default perspective because I'm used to the real thing. And the idea that somebody's going to use some kind of weird scientific process, especially after all the movies and stuff that we've seen over the years talking about, science gone wrong and just the weird things that people do with science. There's naturally going to be some apprehension when it comes to the idea of, quote unquote real meat that has been grown in the lab. I think most people are going to have a certain amount of initial revulsion to that idea just because it's weird. We're used to a certain way of doing things. We're used to, especially if you don't have any conscientious objection to the consumption of meat, you're used to and prefer the idea that we get our meat from healthy living animals. So the idea that somebody's going to construct meat in a laboratory and then you're going to eat it is just obviously going to be something that a lot of us are going to struggle with, especially the older you are and the more you've been indoctrinated into the old system of, raising animals to slaughter and consume. Now, that being said, I do have the basic level of intelligence required to know that meat has a certain chemical and physical composition, and if they are able to replicate that in a laboratory setting and ultimately a factory setting, and it ends up being exactly the same as what real meat would be, there's no logical, moral, ethical reason not to do that. And assuming that ends up being the case, especially if they're able to create meat that doesn't have a lot of the chemicals and stuff that we end up injecting our animals with, it could end up being a much more healthy solution than the way that we do things now. So you can look forward and see a potential future that allows us to enjoy meat in a more humane and ethical way that is healthier for us and more affordable, because now we're not having to, raise animals. We're able to produce them in a way that it's probably going to be cheaper to do once we get the economies of scale and all of that stuff done. Now, on the other side of that, history has shown us that if there's profit to be made in a way that, if there's profit to be made, it doesn't matter whether that's going to hurt people or not. People are going to exploit those things, and the reality is that anytime you consolidate something as important as food under one umbrella, you have the chance of running into some problems, and I don't know of any way around that other than, oh, here we go. If you look up at the top right of the screen, you can see that there is a biological source here, but there's only one, and we want to find at least two. And recently I've been kind of wondering if it would be a good idea to start not going to the icy bodies, because they're almost always going to have fungoida, and I mean, it's a decent amount of money, but it's not like 100 million. Like it's not like almost 100 million like the stratum tectonicus are. So we might start skipping the icy bodies and only going to, like, say, high metal content planets or rocky bodies, things like that have multiple different kinds of biology. So I'm struggling towards a point towards a point that I'm trying to make when it comes to the consolidation of power. You can see a dystopian kind of future with a lab-grown meat-based future where, certain companies are producing meat in a way, and they have complete control, and we don't have any fallback that allows us to figure out our own means of food production. Now, you could argue that we pretty much have that now. Most of the vast majority of the food that we have in this country is produced under massive corporations that have leveraged their money and power to gain control over pretty much every aspect of our food production system. And you either buy their stuff, or especially if you're not in the class of people that can afford to look for alternative means of obtaining food, you have to go to the grocery store, and the grocery store is going to sell you all that stuff that's been produced by these big manufacturers of food. So, I guess realistically we're kind of already there. No high value planets on this one, so we're going to move on. There's 28 bodies, and that's too many to scan. We're trying to balance, travel time versus actually stopping and looking around. So, it's reasonable to make the argument that we're already in that position, and, shifting from actually killing animals to eat meat to growing them in a lab wouldn't really be that big of a shift as far as, means of control of production of food. It ultimately means the same thing. But at the same time, like most topics, there's no clear indisputable thing. There's a bunch of different aspects that you have to think about and decide for yourself, which is the most important. When it comes to something like lab-grown meat, my natural instinct is to be very apprehensive, not just from not just from the perspective of, it's something that's new and kind of scary and weird, but also just the fact that you don't know what they're going to put in that stuff. And you don't know if the process itself is necessarily safe. Just because they say that it's safe doesn't mean that it's safe. And I think that history bears that out in several situations, not the least of which the most recent example, as in the chemical product that shall not be named to address the disease that shall not be named, that has been shown to cause some serious problems among certain segments of the population that really would have been addressed during a. I'm trying to be very careful because, number one, I don't want the algorithm to know what I'm talking about, but then number two, I don't want to misspeak either. Preventative medicine is supposed to go through certain processes that require a great deal of time to figure out what kind of side effects may end up happening as a result of taking those medications. And because of the emergency nature of the situation that we went through a few years ago, the process was rushed. They didn't go through the many years of testing and all of that kind of stuff that is supposed to happen typically with those kinds of medications. And certain people are paying the price for that because there was no way to know because we didn't do the testing we were supposed to do. So I am not an anti you-know-what. I have received many of those things over the course of my life, and I truly believe in them. But at the same time, I also don't agree with the idea that you should just take one because every other one worked. They should all have to go through rigorous testing and all of that before they're used, regardless of what the situation is. The human body is capable of fighting off any number of different things. The immune system that we have has been calibrated to deal with those things, and while certain medications can help with that, just injecting yourself with various things just because the scientists say that it's safe isn't always the best decision. You have to decide for yourself whether you're going to take that risk or not. So that said, I decided I wasn't going to take it because it needed a lot more time to see what is going to happen to people before I decided I was going to risk my health on that. And I'm glad that I did because there's a significant number of people going through some serious issues because they were coerced into doing that. So I bring that up because this is one of those situations where I'm not necessarily opposed to the idea of synthetic meat, because if it ends up being the same as regular meat or better than regular meat, I can still get that awesome meat flavor without having to deal with the cholesterol issues and the other issues that we all know comes from eating meat. If I can get that experience without the guilt, basically, then obviously that's going to be an awesome thing. But at the same time, the chemical process is inherent in having to do something like that. We don't really know what the side effects of that might end up being. I don't really know enough about the process, and I'm not a scientist, so my natural assumption is to be averse to it until there's enough of a body of evidence to tell me that, hey, it's fine, it's safe. All these people have been eating it and nothing's happening to them. Then, cool. I don't have, aside from just the natural aversion to something weird, what feels like something weird like that, I'm not just going to write off the whole thing just because it feels kind of weird to me. But at the same time, I am going to approach it with a sense of cautiousness, as you should with everything in life. Regardless of, you are responsible for your own body and your own health, and you should be the one who chooses to decide whether you're going to trust what another person tells you. No matter how much of an expert they are still a human being, and human beings make mistakes, and you should do your own due diligence to make sure that whatever it is that you're participating in or putting into your body or anything like that, you do as much as you are capable of doing to make sure that it's relatively safe. Now, obviously, there's no 100% guarantees or anything like that. There's always going to be a certain amount of risk when you place your body in the hands of another person. But, you do as much as you can and hope for the best. At some point, you have to set aside your fears and doubts and just accept that, hey, this is the new way of doing things. And, I'm excited. I'm honestly excited for the idea that we're going to get to a point where we don't have to kill animals anymore to sustain our health. Because, you can get everything you need from a plant-based diet, but there's a reason why most of us go for meat, and it's because meat is a much more nutrient-dense option. You can get a lot more nutritious value out of meat than you can from vegetables. There's a reason why you need to eat so many more vegetables to get the same amount of, vitamins and minerals and things like that, and it's because of the density. Evolution has made it so that we are constantly consolidating nutrients into smaller and smaller packages. So you start out with algae in the ocean, and then small animals in the ocean eat the algae and condense that nutrient value into a slightly smaller package, or a slightly more dense package. And then bigger animals come in and eat those, and bigger animals come in and eat those, and more until you have this highly densely packed nutrients. And that's why predators are able to thrive, because there's a food chain that is continuously condensing nutrients down into a small package that makes the effort worth it. So, you know, if the predators do what they do because they have evolved in a way that allows them to expend a minimal amount of effort to gain a maximum reward, and that's a good way to go for them. So there's a reason why meat is the preferred way of, you know, or is a very preferred product to include in our daily diet, because the amount of vegetables that, you know, vegetarians and vegans and all that stuff have to eat, you know, regardless of their ethical reasons for wanting to do it, they have to eat a lot more quantity of food as compared to somebody who eats a fair amount of meat in their diet. And it's an efficiency thing. So if we can get to the point where we can, you know, grow meat in a safe and ethical way that allows us to not have any fear from it, then I think that's a very good path forward for everybody, especially if they can make it in a way that makes it so that it's cheaper and ultimately safer, because obviously if it's being grown in a sterile lab environment, not exposed to feces and a lot of the other things that raising and slaughtering of animals ends up exposing us to, then obviously that's going to be a much safer product, because now we're not introducing all of these crazy animal diseases that, you know, end up getting put into our food supply. Because there's no animals in the first place. It's just being built, and then we eat it. So it's like I said, this video is, the topic of discussion is the pros and cons. I'm covering both sides of the thing. As somebody who is, you know, on the older side of things, I definitely have a weird feeling about the idea of eating something that was basically 3D printed in a factory or a lab or whatever like that. It's hard to shift your perspective and make it so that you can just be totally fine with it. Now, I think I could get over it, but I would have to have, like, you can't have assurances, I guess, but I would have to have some kind of something that makes me feel like the product that I'm consuming hasn't been made in a way that is intended to do something to me. And I guess let me kind of explain my thought process on that. As I said towards the beginning, if there is profit to be made, there are going to be people who do that regardless of the consequences to the other people around them. If there is a harmful aspect to this process, it will be covered up by the people who want to make this happen, because lots of money has been invested in it. And if it turns out that some step in this process has some kind of seriously harmful thing to people that won't show up until 30, 40 years down the road, they're going to cover that up, because we want our money now and screw the next generation. That's just the way that people work. If you believe in a fundamentally good nature in people, I don't know what to tell you. History doesn't show that. So, you know, it's important to remember that while the idea may hold a lot of merit, you also have to understand that people suck and people are involved in this process. And I think especially a lot of recent events show us that we should never trust officials and scientists and all of that stuff implicitly, because there's a lot of personal gain benefit in many of the things that they're doing. And if they have to fudge the numbers a little bit to make what they want happen, they will. And, you know, I don't think, regardless of your political affiliation, I think you could probably agree with that. I don't think that's an overly political statement. Like I said, I try to keep politics off of this channel because, you know, we're here to have fun and have gaming, and you know, that's the primary goal of everything that I do here. So, you know, I don't think that's a particularly political statement. I think everybody can pretty much agree with that. People suck, regardless of what you think about how the world should be. People suck. And they'll almost always look out for their own self-interest before they give a crap about you. So just we have to keep that in mind in any process that we're doing. And, you know, I think we all have to acknowledge the fact that there's been a lot of, you know, oh, wait, I didn't finish. There's been a lot of propaganda over the years of, you know, dystopian futures, things that, you know, may happen because we allow it to happen, blah, blah, all that stuff. You know, there's this lab-grown meat thing feels like one of those dystopian future kind of things where, you know, governments or corporations or, you know, whatever group it is that ends up in control exerts force upon the population by controlling the food. And, you know, now instead of having farms all over the country, we have a few consolidated food production facilities that feed the entire country, and all they have to do to, you know, force you to do what they want is just to cut off your meat supply. Now you can't eat. So, you know, obviously that's an extremely paranoid point of view, but at the same time it's not completely 100% unrealistic either, because we've seen in the past, history has shown from, you know, the 1800s, companies that killed people who were protesting. I mean, we've seen it. It's not like it's a hypothetical thing that companies are willing to kill people in order to ensure that their profits remain undisturbed. You know what I mean? Like that, we've seen it happen, and it still happens today. The fact that slavery is still a major problem in the world today shows the fact that human beings haven't changed. We may live in a country, like if you live in the United States or one of the first world countries in the world, you know, obviously it feels like that's not a thing, but at the same time, the reason why we have the cheap things that we have is because of slavery in the world. So, you know, enjoy your iPhone. But the point I'm trying to get to is that just like most advancements in the world, there is potential for it to be something that is completely amazing and revolutionize. Oh, we might have, we have a water world in here, so let's see if we can find it. It has the potential to be a complete game changer when it comes to feeding the world, and in that context, it's something that brings a lot of hope, and I think we should have an open mind to it. But then at the same time, we always have to keep it in the back of our head that, oh, here we go, biology. All right, so we're definitely going to go there. We'll do the water world first, and then we'll head over to that and do some scanning, and that'll probably end out the episode given how much time we have left. Let's hurry up and finish scanning all of this. That one's too far away, so we won't be going to scan that. The amount of money that we would get out of that is just not worth it. How far away is that? 645, 1 biology. And then I think that might be it, so I'm not going to waste a bunch of time. The other ones are too far away. So let's go back over here into the map and see if we can find, it would be one of these guys. Yes, we want this one. The other one, I think there was one more that had 1 biology, but we want the one that has 2. All right. So we'll get turned over here. We'll get over here. So get over to the planet, scan it, do all that stuff. Let's get ourselves set up for Super Cruise Assist, so it will lock us on there. And then we'll go full speed. So yeah, what I'm trying to say is that a topic like this that is going to naturally feel weird to a lot of people, it's something that we should acknowledge that we're going to feel weird, and it's okay to feel weird about it, but at the same time you need to understand that that's a biological response to something that is strange and unusual and not something that you're used to, and get yourself outside of that thought process so that you can rationally think about the good sides and the potential good sides and the potential bad sides of whatever this new thing is that we're doing. I can see a future where food becomes something that's no longer a problem, because now we can produce this highly dense calorie and nutrient dense product that tastes great and provides us with that satisfying feeling of, you know, having a steak or a burger or whatever, and is hopefully healthier because we produce it in a way that removes most of the bad things. We figure out ways to do that. I can see an amazing future where that could be the result of something like this. But then I can also remember that people suck. Wait, what am I doing? I'm trying to undo this. We also have to keep in mind that yes, people suck, and I think I have to pull up. We're approaching too fast. I think my throttle was overriding the controls. It refused to slow down. All right, if I could finish my thought, that would be great. We can keep in mind that people suck, and if they can exploit you to better themselves, they will. And the reality is that, you know, there's a reason why those dystopian future stories ring so true, and it's because we know that, you know, there's a lot of people in the world who want that kind of a future, and they want to be the ones running that future. You know? Like, we come up with these stories and they sound like paranoia, but oh, here we go, stratum. Stratum tectonicus, here we go. We see these stories, and, you know, a lot of times our natural response to them is to be like, that's just paranoia. No, not really. I mean, we've seen stories of power-hungry people who go to great lengths and make millions and millions of people miserable because they want to be in control. And you ignore that kind of stuff at your peril. There's a reason why we have that saying: if you fail to learn, people who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And unfortunately, human beings really suck at learning from history. It's just kind of the way that it is. I'm not really sure where we want to land here. I know that the video quality for you guys is probably not giving you the same picture that I'm getting. There's what looks like a bunch of flat spots, but at the same time, who knows? We're gonna get to a glide here, get down, start scanning some stuff, and then hopefully we'll find some stratum real quick, and we can end this episode within the allotted 30 minutes that I typically try to hold on to. But I don't know. We have 4 minutes left to get it done, and who knows if I'm going to be able to actually get it done in that amount of time. We'll see. Alright. Get our landing gear down. And then ideally, we're going to find some stratum tectonicus here. Oh, there's bacteria too. Oh. Okay. Well, that's definitely stratum tectonicus. We also have some bacteria here, too. We may go long on this episode just to get all the biology done. Because if the bacteria is easy to see, I'll generally go for it. Let's make sure we get this stratum tectonicus first, though. Because that's 100 million credits. 90 million, but I rounded up to 100. Stratum tectonicus lime. We found a bunch of that. So to the user that mentioned that I should focus on high metal content planets, I think you are correct. I think you are right that we should probably skip a lot of the cold planets, and because all they're ever going to have is the fonticula, the same old fonticula. Like almost always, they have the same stuff. So we'll cover more distance and probably, what's that? Oh, that's bacteria. Where's the? Here we go. That's what I'm looking for. Wow, okay. It's because I'm in a hurry. There we go. I'll try not to crash anymore, because if I crash too much more, we're going to start taking some hull damage. That's not a good idea. And it is quite annoying that I have to do one sample at a time, and I can't have multiple canisters, and it's really annoying. Because they have bacteria and stratum right next to each other. They could just let me do that, but whatever. Alright. And this is why I do that flippy turnaround thing. Okay, let me land. Got all this flat... Alright, seriously, we have all this flat ground here. You're killing me, dude. Alright. Yeah, look how far back I had to go. All this flat space here. And that rock, those rocks aren't that big. Ridiculous. Alright. And that's 90 million credits. So we'll try to quickly grab all of the bacteria, just because we're going to go over time limit anyway. It's fine. Put it on my systems so that ideally my shields will grow back a little faster. Now I have to slow down because I don't want to damage my ship. But yes, this is the reason why I fly around with shields, because of exactly this right here. I get impatient and I stop paying attention, and I want to hurry up and get things done because, you know, things to do. Get ourselves 2 more of those and we can be finished for the episode. So ideally... Come on. You can't tell me that... I really wish that they would update the landing for this so that you could have a little bit easier of a time. It's ridiculous that I always end up stopping right on a place where I can't land. And then I move 2 feet to the right and all of a sudden I can land there. I mean, seriously, what was stopping me from landing where I was? Nothing. Alright, 1 more of these and then we can be done. Pull forward. I fly like a helicopter basically when I'm doing this. Yep, right there. That should be fine. All right, there we go. So anyways, hopefully you guys had lots of fun. Be sure to click that like button if you did so that the YouTube algorithm will know and send the video out to as many people as possible. If you're not a subscriber, please consider doing so now so that when the next video comes out, it will show up in your feed and you will be able to watch it as soon as it becomes available. Channel members do get early access to all of my content, so be sure to click that join button, check out the list of options available there, and decide if any of those are right for you. If you would like to support the channel but not do a membership, you can leave YouTube's version of a tip with that thanks button. Direct contributions are greatly appreciated and a critical component of turning this channel into a full-time gig, which is the dream. Again, I'd like to remind you of the GoFundMe to help out with our mother-in-law's car. We really need some help with that to get her back on the road. So again, thank you very much for your time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to come back for the next one, and I'll see you then.